Hi everyone, welcome to our third lockdown session. I hope you're all keeping well. It's a lovely day here. Today we're going to talk about this record, a band that means a lot to me, Simple Minds. This is their 1982 album, New Gold Dream. But first I want to explain how I first encountered the band and got into them. So if you picture the scene, I'm 12 years old, it's Christmas Day 1983, and I'd asked for a record which was a tie-in to the children's TV show Saturday Superstore. And the reason I wanted that is a compilation album is because there's a song on it called Love is a Wonderful Colour by the Icicle Works. It's a great song, it still is a great song, but on Christmas Day when the 12-inch square shaped present was duly passed to me, I was informed that they'd sold out of the Saturday Superstore record, but I got this instead, which is obviously the First Now album. So I thought, well, okay, that's not too bad. Got two records in it instead of one, which the Saturday Superstore record had, and it was packed full of number ones and the big hits of the year. Just read a few out: Bill Collins, Duran Duran, Limahl, Heaven 17, Culture Club. They've got two tracks on it, Genesis, and right on side 4, the third track from the end is this song by Simple Minds called Waterfront. Now, I got very taken with this song, so much so in fact I went out and bought a couple of the singles that released off the album, and then I came into some money, and during the summer I got this, which was the album their current album at the time, which was their first album that got number 1 in the UK, Sparkle in the Rain. So that's the first Simple Minds album I got. And then obviously, if you really like a band, you want to work back. So at the time, I had paper rounds, my school friends had paper rounds, and we would each buy records, and then despite the slogan that home taping is killing music, you could buy a pack of cassette tapes. One of us would buy an album, and then we'd pass around blank tapes, record it, and then somebody else would obviously, they'd buy an album, then we'd get a tape off that. So that is how I ended up with, on a cassette, one of my friends was also in Simple Minds, so I ended up with New Gold Dream. And that was an album I listened to quite a bit one summer on a Walkman. So to me, this record is always tied up with listening to it on cassettes and on headphones. I don't really listen to it a lot through speakers. I don't know why. It's just to me, it's a summer album and it's a headphones album. But I think it's possibly overall the best album that they've done. So if we go into a little bit of the history of Simple Minds, they were formed in Glasgow in 1978, but previous to that, the lead singer and guitarist Simple Minds, Charlie Burchill and Jim Kerr, have been in a punk band called Johnny and the Self-Abusers. Internal strife meant that Johnny and the Self-Abusers split into two. One faction went off to form a band called the Cuban Heels, and Charlie Burchill, Jim Kerr, the guitarist and singer, and the drummer, Brian McGee, went on to form Simple Minds. Now they got picked up by a guy called Bruce Findlay, who owned a chain of record shops in Scotland, and he also owned his own independent label, which was licensed through Arista Records. So by 1979 they'd started releasing albums. So they released albums in 79, Life in a Day, Reel to Reel Cacophony, again in 79 I think. They came out pretty quickly, and they had a sound that was quite... It's hard to think now if you don't know a lot about Simple Minds, but at the time they were regarded as how people would talk about Radiohead now. They were quite experimental in what they were doing. They were looking for new ways of making music. The sound on some of the records was quite stripped back. They used a lot of guitar effects. But they weren't really... they made albums like this, Empires and Dance, which is now regarded as a bit of a classic. And this one, Sister Feelings Call, which came out with another album called Something Fascination at the same time. They were both released at the same time. But like Talk Talk, who we talked about on my first album Lockdown presentation, they didn't really do much in the UK. They'd not had a single in the top 40. They were known, but they were perhaps a little bit more successful in Europe. Anyway, after these albums were released, I had the first lineup change. The drummer, Brian McGee, who'd been with them from the start, decided to leave, and they brought in another drummer to complete some tour dates called Kenny Hyslop. Well, he was playing funk tapes on the tour bus, which the band took as a bit of an inspiration. So they went into the studio and recorded a single that was meant to be like a standalone called Promised You a Miracle. And that's quite funky. It's quite stripped back, but it's got like a funk bass line to it, and that was their first UK hit single. That single got to number 13 in April of 1982, and on the back of that success they decided to start writing sessions for some new songs, which were to form the core of New Gold Dream. So they went into the studio. By this point, that replacement drummer, Kenny Hyslop, had left, and they brought in two drummers, one guy called Mike Ogletree and another one, Mel Gaynor, who has been with the band, or was with the band, for many years. And he is responsible for me really getting into the sound of drums, because getting away a bit from New Gold Dream, on Sparkle in the Rain, and especially Waterfront, which we talked about, that was on Now That's What I Call Music, the drums are really to the fore. But anyway, they recorded New Gold Dream, and they released it in September of '82, and it was an immediate success. They released two other singles off it, both which got into the top 40. And just check my notes. I think this got into the top 10 album. I think it was number 3. So they released New Gold Dream, big success. Everybody loves them. It's got Herbie Hancock plays a keyboard solo on here, and the songs on this album, quite a few of them still make up a spine of the Simple Minds live set to this day. They were really firing on all cylinders by this point, onwards and upwards. So we'll listen to the record, and then when we've listened to it, we'll come back and we'll tell you what happened next.